down at the home office. It's Thursday afternoon, the week after the landmark national conference held in Lexington, Kentucky this past weekend. It was a tremendous conference. As many of you know, this conference will definitely be one that will go down in the history of New Image International. I must say, here at the home office, there's as much excitement with the employees and everything that's going on around here as there is out in the field. I think we all know that we finally struck the gold mine this past weekend here with this company. The satellite showcase that you're going to be seeing tonight is a landmark training that Dale did at the end of the conference Saturday afternoon. Are you a victim? I don't think so. It was a tremendous training. It touched a lot of people. Dale said he has received hundreds of emails, letters, ImageNet messages about how this training touched them. Myself, along with many of the other national directors, felt that this needed to be put on the satellite showcase as soon as possible, because whether you were there and got to experience it live, or if you didn't have the opportunity to come to this national conference, you definitely need to see this training. This can really set your business on fire. Those of you that had the opportunity to see it, you can watch this many, many times, over and over and over again, and hopefully this will cause your business to explode. You will gain the self-belief that you need, and you've got to remember the past is the past. The present is here, and the future is what's coming. Don't try to live in the past. Look at the future. If you want something to change, you must be willing to make a change. I hope you truly enjoy this training by Dale as much as we all did at the conference.
When I was asked to do the master ceremony, be the master of ceremonies this afternoon here a couple of months ago, I don't know. I've been trying to put my thoughts together on it for a couple of weeks. And all of these people that I've had the pleasure to introduce today, I just had to speak from my heart, and I didn't get a lot said that I wanted to say. And I'm not going to be able to say all I want to say here. When I met Dale on the plane ride to Raleigh, it didn't go so good. I mean, the plane did all right, but had my attitude with me then, you know. I got to Raleigh and I met Steve Hicks, and I thought, yeah, this is for short people. They don't really want me. But there's something about the kid that I liked. I just didn't want to admit it. There was an air about him that was just something I had to follow. I mean, you know, I had no clue I was talking to the greatest networking mind on earth. Man, can you imagine that? That's what we got, guys. I was telling Amy here, I've told her on 2 or 3 occasions when we talk about Dale, probably the situation I was in, it would be safe to say Dale Calvert's probably saved my life. I don't think I'd be here today if it wouldn't have been for meeting Dale Calvert. There's probably others can say the same thing. You know, we all come from different places when we get here, and but I was at my lowest, and he has changed my life forever. He has been man enough to tell me what I needed to hear always, as he has many of the nationals here. I'm 51 years old, but I've really had a life the last 5.5 years since I met this guy. He is the greatest. I can't say any more, okay? He's the greatest. Dale Calvert.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you look in your program, the title of the talk says Final Thoughts. And I've had a lot of difficulty trying to figure out how in the world I wanted to end this conference. Phil Schuff was talking about earlier that, you know, it's a pivotal time. There's no question about it. And I was talking to my parents and I said, you know, I just don't know what else to say. I've said everything I know to say. I've done everything I know to do. And I just couldn't get any inspiration. And they printed the program 3 months ago, and Debbie Traylor kept on me and said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. I said, I just don't know. And Monday of this week, it started to come to me a little bit, and I think some things have opened up that I hope will make a tremendous difference for all of you. Before we go there, I want to do two things. Number one is, you see the title of the talk is Forever a Victim, I Don't Think So. And there's going to be 2 or 3 times in this presentation where you're going to see that flash on the screen. And when you see that, what I'd like for you to do is just repeat it as a group and just say as a group, Forever a Victim, I Don't Think So. You think you can help me out there? Yeah. All right, let's practice it one time, okay? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, that's pretty good for the first time. The second thing that I want to do before I get in this presentation is, guys, I want to just say a heartfelt thank you to each and every speaker that's participated. Guys, you have done an awesome, awesome job. And last but certainly not least, the amount of work that it takes to put one of these things together, that the home office staff goes through, the amount of preparation. And guys, we have to prepare for these things and pull them together on top of our regular home office duties. And the home office staff, we're just blessed with a tremendous, tremendous group of people. And I just want to personally thank each and every one of us. The last conference, I talked about getting to a place emotionally and psychologically that you've never been before, and we talked about the whirlpool, which is about right here, if y'all remember. And we talked about getting out here, way out here, to a place emotionally and psychologically that you've never been before, and we talked about the whirlpool is going to continue to try to suck you back. Y'all remember that? And all my life, for the last 18 years, I guess most of my thought has been thinking about, why do some people get it and some people never get it? How is it that some people can hear Zig Ziglar and their lives touched forever, and some people can hear Zig Ziglar and they think, oh, he was funny and I love him and I wish he was my Uncle Harry? What's the difference? What is the difference? What makes the difference in people's lives? How come some people can hear Jim Rohn and be changed forever, and some people can hear Jim Rohn and they don't like him because he talked too proper? What is the difference? How can some people go through their life and never get touched, and some people get touched? It's always haunted me. For the last 18 years, I've tried to figure out why I got into this, why I was touched at a young age, and why so many people are never touched. And it's been pondering over and over and over in my mind, because the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, when we do a conference like this, when we go out as a national director team and we do regional meetings, the reality of the situation is there's 25% of the people in the room that had already decided that will benefit from that event, whether it's a conference or a meeting or a training or a regional meeting. The other 75% will get a temporary benefit, but then they get sucked right back into their patterns that they've always lived in. When we come and do a conference like this, when we go out and spend our time doing regional meetings, our only hope, the only reason we go, is maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people will transform from the 75% to the 25%. That's the only reason we do these. What did he say yesterday was the purpose of events? Maxwell, Dr. Maxwell. To make a decision. To make a decision. The only reason you've been here the last three days is to make a decision, to decide, are you going to or are you not going to? Because until you make that decision, nothing else matters. Some of you, when you got here Thursday, had already decided. Man, you've already decided. You didn't even need the conference. Some of you. You decided a long time ago, maybe a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, you're going to be a national director and you're not going to be denied, and you know you can get to course 10. A lot of you, when you arrived here, you'd already made that decision. And those of you that were there when you got here, man, this has been an unbelievable event because you are more fired up about our future and where we're going than you've ever been in your life. I know that. You got to be after you've seen what you've seen. There's another group of you that have been here maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, maybe a couple years, and you've never started your business. You've never started. Some of you have been here 2, 3 years. You've never really gotten started. Maybe after this weekend, some of you will go home and get started. But the group that I want to spend just a little bit of time on is there's a lot of you here, and some of you have titles called like Senior Area Director and Regional Director and possibly even National Director, and you already quit. You quit before you got here. You quit a year ago. You quit 2 years ago. There's a lot of regional directors in this room who already quit. Sure, you love New Image. You love the products. You love the people. You like to watch the satellite showcase, but you quit. You got to a certain point, maybe $1,000, $1,200, $1,800, $2,000 a month, maybe $3,000, maybe $4,000 a month, and you thought you'd arrived. And you took the flag that David Cook was talking about and you put it in the closet. And what you've seen over the last 2 or 3 years since you've been here, you've watched your check just kind of dip and dip and dip because the speed of the leader is the speed of the group, and you aren't setting an example for your people anymore. The flag's in the closet. And you already quit. And you're in a danger zone, ladies and gentlemen, especially you regional directors, because here's what's going to happen. As you watch that check continue to dwindle, of course it's not your fault. And of course you're going to blame. And then you're going to have some little short black-haired guy that's never done anything in his life except talk a lot of trash come up to you and share with you an opportunity that's really not an opportunity. Or it could be a woman, or it could be anybody. I just kind of flashed in my mind for some reason. And it's going to be easier for you to quit and join something else and psychologically save face than it is to admit that you quit 3 years ago. Now I want you to know something. You might be fooling some people, but you aren't fooling me. So you are the people that I am most concerned about. And then there's some people that this weekend's done it. Man, it's done it. It's going to be like 94 with Jim Rohn for many of you. I saw many lives transform. And I know for some of you, this will be the conference that you'll look back on. It's done, Dale. It's done. Man, I can do my 6 courses. I can do a course every 6 months. It's done. I don't care. I'm getting the job done. I've already been touched. I just want you to shut up so I can go home and go to work, because this was the one that did it for me. Why is it so difficult? And this is the question, and guys, I think I'm closer to the answer right now than I've ever been in my life. Why is it difficult for 75% of the population to make a life-altering decision, a commitment to something? And I truly believe in the last 3 months, it's because most people are so bound with the heartaches and the disappointments and the failures of their past that they have difficulty developing a clear picture for their future. I truly believe, as I analyze this, that people come to these events, they get fired up, they get excited, they're sincere in that emotion, and they get out there and they start doing a good job. And as soon as they start doing a good job, their past starts to bring back the failures of their past. It starts to haunt them. It starts to pull them back. I always wondered what sucks people back to the whirlpool. What is it that's calling them to suck them back? It's their past. It's their past failures. It's their past disappointments. It's their past heartaches. It's easy to live our lives as a victim. It's easy because people pity victims. We all want to burp and diaper victims. It's a whole lot easier being a victim than taking responsibility. But I'm here to tell you, until you take responsibility and control over your past, you will never achieve your potential in the future. Go back one. Billy Riggs talked about this. He talked about people that have a God complex and people that have a victim mentality. And I tell you what, when I was putting all this together, I think, man, I've got to go back and watch that again. And Steve Hicks sent me a tape about 4 months ago of a pastor, and he was talking about this victim syndrome. And I haven't asked Steve this. I'm going to ask him when this conference is over. Steve, don't shake your head one way or the other. They got the camera on you, man. I don't want anybody else to know but me and you. But I think he might have sent me those tapes because I needed them. It's real easy to get sucked in the victim chair if you don't watch yourself. All successful people, at some point in their life, find themselves sitting in the victim chair. I can look back on my life. I've been there for a day, been there for a couple of weeks. Times I've been there for a few months. All successful people. And what I'm starting to realize is that there's a lot of people that live day after day after day, year after year, always in the victim chair. There's a distinct difference. I mean, all successful people at some times will find themselves in the victim chair. But I started to realize as I started thinking about this concept how widespread this epidemic is. The population as a whole seems to love to be in the victim chair. You know, at last conference we had all this mess going on at the White House, and the whole nation was watching to see who gets to be the victim. Is it the burnout, overworked CEO of the country, or is it this young ladder climbing intern? Who's going to be the victim? Everybody's sitting around wanting to know who's going to be the victim. And the world is absolutely full of people that live their life and they perceive in their mind that they're a victim, so therefore they live their life as a victim. This victim syndrome covers all walks of life and every economic background. You don't have to be, you can be a laborer, you can be a professional. And as I started to think about this in the last 3, 4, or 5 months, and I started listening to what people say, the victimitis, the words that they speak, it's absolutely depressing to see how everybody wants to blame everybody in the world except themselves for their failure. It's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. And you will never, ever, ever reach your potential until you take responsibility for it. Your life has got to be run by you. You can be an associate area director, you can be an area director, you can be a regional director, you can be a national director, and you still can suffer from this victim mentality. Victims always think that somebody else has done something to them. Victims, all their conversation is about them and their emotions and their feelings. Victims stay in constant turmoil, and if there's no turmoil, they'll find something to create turmoil about. Constant turmoil, constantly stirring things up. They can never be on the straight and narrow. Victims never accept responsibility for their own failures or shortcomings. And until you learn to do that, until you walk out of here and learn to do that, you will never, ever, ever achieve your future. You are not responsible for the bad things that happen to you in your life, but you are responsible how you think about those things. And that's what you got to come to grips with. It's your thinking. It's the way you're thinking about it. Success starts with realizing that you're responsible for your life. You're in control. It's not the government's fault. It's not your mama's fault. It's not your daddy's fault or your boss's fault or your upline or your downline's fault. The problem is in the mirror. Until you come to grips with that, nothing can change. I told Stephanie they're all going to leave here more excited than they've ever been or more pissed off than they've ever been. Where's my mother? Mom, I'm sorry I said pissed off. When I was 30 years old, and I was broke, $50,000 in excess debt, buying groceries on a credit card. All of you know the story. And I could have blamed my former employer, which would have been very easy to do because they did mess over me. And I could have blamed a lot of different things. And I could be now down the road a few years and still blaming everybody else for that time in my life. Or I could have decided that if it's going to change, I'm going to change it. There's people in this room, you went bankrupt when you were in your 20s. Today you're in your 50s. And everybody that you ever meet that you get very close to, eventually within a couple days or a couple hours or sometimes a couple minutes, you have to tell them your bankrupt story. You have to tell them how successful and everything was going in your life, and then all of a sudden a partner messed over you or something happened, and I went bankrupt 30 years ago. And you live with that day after day after day after day after day after day after day. It haunts you. My gracious, you could have built 3 more businesses and gone bankrupt 3 more times in the last 30 years. If you're here today and you're 40 years old and you're broke and you live in America, if you're here today and you're 40 years old and you're broke and you live in America, guess what? It's your fault. The decisions that you have made in your life up to this point got you here. And you can choose to make those same wrong decisions over the next 40 years of your life, or you can choose to do something else about it. It's up to you. But don't blame everybody else because you're 40 and you live in America and you're broke. You can continue to waller in it, you can continue to suck your thumb about it, or you can do something about it. I've met people that got divorced 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Every day they live with that tragedy. Every day they wake up and they're mad at that former wife or husband. And every day they wallow in it. It's like a cancer. It's like a cancer that eats at them day after day after day after day of their life until their life totally wastes away. Totally wastes away. It's 20 years ago and they're still talking about it. Well, you need to shut up about it and get on with the rest of your life. You got to do that, guys. Some people never forget the hurtful words of others. It's amazing. It's amazing. They can tell you when somebody talked bad about them a week ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. They can tell you the whole conversation. It's amazing. Man, when that happens, you get rid of it and you go on about your life. Some of you are being haunted by the words that people spoke to you 20, 30 years ago. They're dead and buried. But those words haunt you every day. Every day you let those words curse you from the grave. They cursed you with your own self-talk because you keep repeating it over and over and over. I don't understand it, guys. Life's too short to live it that way. Some of you suffered when you were young terrible abuse and neglect. Terrible abuse and neglect. And every day you live with that in your life. But you got to understand, this is my point, and I don't mean to make lightly of any of this. I don't, but you got to understand this one thing. If other people have overcome it, you can too. That's what you got to understand. You are not responsible for what happened to you. You are only responsible about how you think about what happens to you from this point on in your life. Are y'all seeing the difference? Personal pain, heartache, suffering, we've all gone through it. But this is the good news. Man, I couldn't wait to get to this point. Get this. Because I know some of you are hurting right now and some of you are mad at me. But get this. The amount of suffering and heartache and pain that you've been through in your life is only a measurement of the amount of power that can be released within your life. Do you understand that? There's some of you in this room. The greater the crisis that you go through, the stronger the power once it's released. You understand that? Some of you in this room, and I think Rick LaValle just flashed through my head, but I've had conversations with many regionals in this room, and things are going tough. Things are hard. Things are not easy as maybe we wish they were. And they'll look at me, and I'll look at them, and I've had this conversation 100 times, and I said, I'm in your corner. I'm behind you. I know it's tough now, but I know you're going to make it. And I know you don't understand this, and I know you're going to want to hit me when I get ready to say this, but I am glad you're going through what you're going through, because when you make it, your story's going to be that much more powerful. You're going to be able to touch many, many more lives because you've been down the road. You've been down those hard knocks. What about Barry Hamby's story over here? My gracious, the problem with the IRS. Go and look at these stories in the front row. And get your thumb out of your mouth, guys. They all went through it. We all go through it. It just releases the power. What did Jim say a few minutes ago when he first came in here? What about David Cook? You think Stephen Kim woke up one morning and they're national directors? Why are you special? We have to go through this, guys, but we got to overcome it. They made the decision. They made the decision that they were responsible for where they were. They were responsible for their thoughts, and they're going to go out and build their future. They aren't going to wallow in their misery for the rest of their life. There's a movie called Groundhog Day. And I don't know how many of you have seen it. It's with Bill Murray. And every day he gets up and he lives the same life, the same day, over and over and over. Have some of you seen that? Oh, man.